Chapter 11. A Dark Domain. Beetle stepped into the gloom, and a wave of happiness came over him. Suddenly he knew that his father was not dead from a spider bite, as his mother and a well-worn faded letter of condolence from the port authorities had always told him. His father was alive. Not only alive, but here, in this very place, waiting to see him. His son. Feeling as though he was walking in lead boots beneath a dark and swirling sea, Beetle moved dreamily deeper into the gloom. Everything felt muffled, and his breath came slowly. Indistinct shadows of things, although Beetle did not see them as such, moved and swayed on the edge of his vision, plucking at his clothes, pushing him forward. Feeling that this was the biggest moment in his life, Beetle walked slowly, almost reverentially, knowing that all he had to do was push open the right door, and he would find the person that he always had longed to meet. Beetle progressed along the seemingly endless corridor, passing rooms piled high with old mattresses, bedsteads, and broken furniture, but not one containing Mr. Beetle. As Beetle neared the end, he heard the sound of a sneeze. His heart leaped. This was it. The sneeze belonged to his father. He knew it. What had his mother so often told him? If only her father had not been allergic to just about everything, he would never have swelled up like a balloon when that spider bit him, and he would still be alive today. And here, at the end of the corridor, was his father, sneezing just like his mother said he always did. Nervously, Beetle approached the room where the sneeze had come from. The door was half open, and through it he could see a figure lying on a narrow bed, the blankets pulled up around his ears. As Beetle tiptoed in, the figure shook with another violent sneeze. Beetle stopped. The words he had longed to say, but he had never had anyone to say them to, sat on the tip of his tongue. He took a deep breath and let them go. "Hello, Dad. It's me, What?" The figure in the bed sat up. "You?" gasped Beetle, shocked. "You? But you're not my—" Marin Meredith, hair sticking up on end, nose red raw, looked even more shocked. He sneezed violently and blew his nose on the bedsheet. Beetle came to his senses and realized that he was not ever going to see his father. A great feeling of loss swept over him, which was quickly replaced by fear. His mind cleared, and he suddenly knew what he had done. He had walked into a dark domain. Beetle forced himself to stay calm. He looked at Marin, who was a pathetic sight, hunched up in bed, his long greasy hair straggled over a fresh crop of pimples. His thin, bony fingers played nervously with the blanket, while his swollen and discolored left thumb sported the heavy two-faced ring that Beetle remembered him wearing in what he now thought of as the old days in the manuscriptorium. "It's only Marin Meredith," Beetle told himself. "He's a total dingbat. He couldn't do a decent dark domain in a million years." But Beetle could not quite convince himself of this. The scary thing was, as soon as he had walked into Marin's room, he had come to his senses, and if Marin really was engendering a dark domain, then that was exactly what Beetle would have expected to happen. Marin would be at the very center of the domain, in its eye, where all is calm and free of dark disturbances. One way to test it was to step outside the room, but Beetle was loath to risk it. He knew that in a dark domain, your sense of time and space could change. In what might seem like a few steps, you could actually be walking miles, sometimes hundreds of miles, and it had indeed felt like a long, long walk down the corridor. Supposing he was no longer in the palace attic, he could be anywhere, in the Badlands, in Bleak Creek, in dungeon number 1, anywhere. Beetle decided that his only chance was to convince Marin that his dark domain had failed, and get Marin to walk out with him. That way he'd have a safe passage back. It would be tricky, but it might just work. Taking care not to lie, because lies can fuel anything dark, Beetle took a deep breath and launched into the attack. "Marin Meredith, what are you doing in the palace?" he demanded. "Achoo! I could say the same to you. Someone else fired you, have they? Got nothing better to do than go snooping in people's bedrooms?" "You'd know all about snooping," Beetle retorted. "And as for being fired, I hear Jilly Jin's at least seen sense and fired you. What took her so long, I don't know." "Stupid cow," sniffed Marin. Beetle did not disagree. "Anyway, she didn't fire me, not for long anyway. Jilly Haddock-faced Jin does what I say now, because I've got this." Marin jabbed his left thumb in the air, taunting Beetle with the two-faced ring, a thick gold ring with two evil-looking faces carved from dark green jade. Beetle looked at the ring disdainfully. "Gothic grotto junk," he said scornfully. "That shows how much you know, Beetlebrain," Marin retorted. "This is the real thing. Those stupid scribes don't dare mess with me anymore. I call the shots at that dump." Marin was enjoying boasting to Beetle. Surreptitiously, he slipped his hand under his pillow to check, for the 20th time that day, that the dark index was still there. It was. The small but deadly book that Marin had acquired during his time working for Simon Heap at the observatory, and which had led him to the two-faced ring, felt crumpled and slightly damp to the touch. But it gave Marin a sudden burst of confidence. "Soon I'll be calling the shots in the whole castle. That stupid Septimus Heap and his pathetic dragon had better watch out, 'cause anything he can do, I can do 10 times better." Marin waved his arms expansively. "There's no way he could even begin to do this." "Do what?" said Beetle. "Hide up in the palace attic and sniff?" Beetle thought he noticed a flicker of uncertainty pass over Marin's face. "Nah, you know what I mean. This. And I can get anyone to come here I want. Yesterday I got the prissy princess to put her little foot in, and this morning I got the old heap wizard to put his striped head in. They both got scared and ran away, but it didn't matter. We got what we needed." "We?" asked Beetle. "Yeah, I've got backup. You want to watch out, office boy, because today I got you good and proper." Marin laughed. "You thought you were coming to see your stupid dad." Beetle had forgotten how obnoxious Marin was. He fought down the urge to punch him. It wasn't, as Jenna would no doubt have told him, worth it. "I am here," Beetle said, "because Princess Jenna asked me to investigate some noises in the attic. I told her it was probably rats, and it turns out I was right. It's one big, stupid rat." "Don't call me stupid," Marin flared. "I'll show you who's the stupid one here. You. You walked right in." "Into what? Your smelly bedroom?" Beetle said scornfully. Marin began to look less confident. "Didn't you notice anything?" he asked. "A load of old junk and empty rooms," Beetle replied dismissively, careful to still speak the truth. "That all?" Beetle sensed he was winning. He avoided a direct answer and snapped, "Marin, what are you talking about?" Marin's confidence suddenly left him. His shoulders sagged. "Nothing ever goes right," he moaned. He looked up at Beetle as if expecting sympathy. "It's 'cause I'm not well," he said. "I could do it if I didn't have this horrible cold." "Do what?" "None of your business," said Marin gloomily. Beetle reckoned it was time to make a move. He turned to leave, hoping that he'd done enough to convince Marin that his dark domain had failed. "Right. I'll be off then," he said. "I'll tell the Heaps where to find you." He began to walk slowly to the door. "No! Hey, wait!" Marin called out. Beetle stopped. He felt immensely relieved, but did not want to show it. "Why?" he demanded. "Please, Beetle, please don't tell them. I've got nowhere else to go. I feel awful, and no one even cares." Marin inspected the sheet for a space where he didn't blow his nose, and blew noisily into it. "And whose fault is that?" "Oh, I expect it's my fault," said Marin. "It always is my fault. It's just not fair." He twisted the two-faced ring anxiously. A sudden spatter of sleet drummed on the window. Marin looked up pathetically. "Beetle, it's cold outside. It's wet, and it's nearly dark. I've nowhere to go. Please don't tell." Beetle hurried on with his plan. "Look, Marin, Sarah Heap is really nice. She won't throw you out. Not in the state you're in." Beetle reckoned he was telling the truth here. "She'll take care of you until you're better." "Will she?" "Of course she will. Sarah Heap will take care of anything, even you." Marin had run out of dry sheet. He blew his nose on his blanket. Beetle pressed on. "So, why don't you come downstairs with me to where it's nice and warm?" "All right, then," said Marin. He coughed and fell back against his stained pillow. "Ugh, I think I'm too weak to get up." "Don't be ridiculous. You've only got a cold," said Beetle scathingly. "I've got flu. Probably pneumonia, in fact." Beetle wondered if Marin might for once be telling the truth. He did actually look ill. His eyes were bright and feverish, and he seemed to be having trouble breathing. "I'll come with you. I'll give myself up, I will," wheezed Marin. "But you'll have to help me. Please." Reluctantly, Beetle went over to the bed. It smelled of dirty, damp clothes, sweat, and sickness. "Thank you, Beetle," Marin murmured, gazing oddly over his shoulder into the distance. The hairs on the back of Beetle's neck began to prickle uncomfortably, and the temperature in the chilly little room dropped a few degrees lower. Marin held out his snotty hand. and as Beetle leaned forward, steeling himself to take it, Marin sat bolt upright and grabbed hold of Beetle's arm. Tight as a vice, Marin's bony fingers encircled his forearm. The ring on Marin's thumb pressed into his flesh and began to burn into it. Beetle gasped. "Never, ever call me stupid," Marin hissed, looking intently over Beetle's shoulder. "I am not stupid. You are." Beetle felt chilled. He knew that something very nasty was standing behind him, and he dared not turn around. Beetle did not reply. His throat had suddenly gone dry. Behind Beetle was a mass of things, which had sensed Marin losing his grip on the dark domain. Marin had acquired them in the Badlands some 18 months previously, when he had taken possession of the two-faced ring. Once the ring reached its full power, Marin had summoned the things to the palace because he had what he called plans. Marin's confidence had returned. "You are in my dark domain, and you know it," he crowed, "and I know you know it." Beetle swayed. Marin's ring was sending stabs of pain shooting up his arm and into his head. He felt sick and very, very dizzy. He tried to pull away, but Marin held him fast. With his free hand, Marin pulled a small dog-eared book from under the bed covers and waved it triumphantly at Beetle. "See this? I've read all of this, and I can do stuff you can't even dream of," he hissed into Beetle's ear. "You wait, office boy. I am going to show them all in this smelly little castle, and that stuck-up manuscriptorium, that they should have been nice to me. They're going to regret it big time. This is my palace now, not the stupid princess's. Soon the castle will be mine, and I am going to have everything I want. Everything!" Marin was spitting with excitement. Beetle longed to wipe the spittle off his cheek, but he could not move. Marin had a grip like a vice. "And that stupid Septimus Heap, he'll be sorry he stole my name. I'll get him, you'll see. I'm going to be the only Septimus Heap around here. It will be my wizard tower, my manuscriptorium, and I'll have a 10 times better dragon than that moth-eaten spitfire he prances around on. You'll see." "In your dreams," Beetle retorted, sounding more confident than he felt. Marin's rant spooked him. There was such a crazy kind of power behind it that Beetle almost believed him. Marin did not bother to reply. With one hand keeping an iron grasp on Beetle, and the other clutching his open book, Marin began to chant the words on the page in a low, monotonous voice. A dark mist began to envelop Beetle. As Marin came toward the end of the chant, the terrible words reached down to Beetle, as if he were at the bottom of a deep, dark pit. His heart raced, and he could hardly breathe from the fear that came over him. His vision closed in, so that all he could see was a tunnel with Marin at the end of it, waving his book and opening his huge red mouth to say. But Beetle never heard what Marin said. With his last conscious effort, he reached out and snatched the book from Marin's grasp. "Begone!" yelled Marin, and then, "Oi! Give it back!" But Beetle didn't give it back. Beetle was gone.